Welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports, man. The Baltimore Ravens are already starting their preparation for the Las Vegas Raiders in just a few days. And we got some updates on Lamar Jackson not practicing today and some other Ravens not practicing as they continue that preparation for the Raiders on Sunday. We also got Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Bledsoe addressing Lamar Jackson's spectacular performance against Kansas City on Thursday night in the NFL season opener. Plus, John Hardball addresses the media and talks about the usage of Derrick Henry and the offensive plan moving forward. We got all that and more, so let's go ahead and dive into the content. At number one, Lamar Jackson was not practicing today, and we'll talk more about that here in a second, but also cornerback Nate Wiggins was not practicing, wide receiver / return specialist Deontay Hardy, outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy, who has a fractured orbital bone, and outside linebacker Adisa Isaac with that hamstring. However, none of these injuries seem to be long-term or concerning as far as their availability throughout the season. Obviously, the big concern here, the big red flag, is Lamar Jackson not practicing. However, he was spotted being on the field for photo day and in the building, but was not out there for practice during the open media portion of practice, where the reporter said that Lamar, he wasn't out there practicing. John Harbaugh was asked about it, and here's what he had to say.
We had a number of guys that weren't out there, some personal, some physical. So, injury report comes out Wednesday afternoon, so you'll be better advised on that day regarding all those guys.
He's keeping his mouth shut. I don't suspect that there's any major concerns here. If anything, I think he's taken some extra rest and recovery time after carrying the ball 18 times on Thursday night against the Chiefs. There was a couple of times where he took hits. He had a couple of hard falls on the ground as well. And obviously for the long-term, availability and success of Lamar Jackson, you don't want to see him carrying the ball 18 times. However, this was a unique game that Lamar Jackson wanted so bad. He's also talked about the speed, losing the weight, and I think he was eager to show that. Whenever the offensive line was breaking down at times, he was not hanging in there. There was times if he saw an open running lane, he was going to take it and make the Chiefs defense pay. I think Lamar Jackson would be fine, and I think if he was dealing with an injury, there would have been some other reports from NFL insiders leaking it out, or if there was any evidence from it from the game on Thursday, there wasn't really anything that was major cause for concern. I think he's just probably bruised up and sore and is taking some extra recovery time, but we'll find out more on Wednesday when the injury report comes out. And at number two, let's talk about Kyle Van Noy real quick. Another concern, probably the next highest level of concern as far as players that are important on the roster right now, because he's our starting outside linebacker opposite of Odafe Oweh right now. He has a fractured orbital bone. You saw him holding kind of above his eyebrow whenever he went down against, Kansas City. He was not getting up. He was in obvious pain, holding, above his eye there, and it's reported that he has a fracture. I don't think the Ravens are concerned about him long-term because he probably would have already been added to the IR, the short-term stint. But the fact that he hasn't shows you that it's probably less than a 4-week recovery time, which kind of lines up with some of the reports. It's reported that doctors usually advise people to stay away from strenuous activity for at least 3 weeks. The positive, if you want to say, about this fracture is that it is covered and protected by a helmet. There's not going to be times where he's taking a lot of direct contact, without a hard helmet in between whatever's hitting him and his bone. But the emergence of David Ojabo proved to not be quite as concerning as far as the depth there at the outside linebacker position. Odafe Oweh also looked really good, and then the hope is to get Adisa Isaac back here soon, which would obviously provide more depth to that position as well. At number three, John Harbaugh talks about the run game and the offensive plan moving forward. He was asked about Derrick Henry's carries. Check out what he had to say here.
Every game is going to be kind of interesting and different. I like the way the run game looked for the most part with just the running back run game. There were some plays that I'd like to see be blocked a little better, but other plays that were blocked really well. And then we rushed for 185 yards overall, and a lot of that's Lamar, but that's the formula. The formula is all the guys together. It's not just the one guy. I think we didn't bring Derrick in here to be, the guy that gets the ball 30 times a game. He's done that before. That's really not the plan. The plan is Derrick, Lamar, Mark, Isaiah, Zay, Bate, Nelly. That's kind of the plan in this offense going forward. So I think that evaluation will be best made over the course of the season, and I'm very confident there's going to be games where Derek's going to go for 100 plus or more, and you're going to be asking me why Isaiah only got 2 catches. That's probably going to happen during the course of the season, and that's going to be good for us. That's what we want to be. We want to be unpredictable that way. And where does the game take us? As we get into the game.
So he says straight up, man, we never brought in Derrick Henry to be a 30 carry type of running back, but he says, it's Lamar, it's Mark, it's Zay, it's Bate, it's Aguilar, right? Having all these different guys be playmakers, trying to keep the defense off balance. But he says, I'm sure there'll be games where Derrick Henry gets well over 100 yards, and then you'll have a game where, Zay Flowers only gets 2 targets, and then you guys will be asking me that. So I think it's good to have that level of unpredictability. And I had a slight suspicion that in the first game, right, the first time playing Kansas City, that we might show something that we plan on doing a little bit differently if we were to meet in the postseason. And to be specific, I really think that maybe the Ravens didn't think this far ahead into it. I don't know. But I just had a feeling that they wanted to show a good amount of quarterback designed run game stuff. Lamar Jackson's willingness to scramble and hurt them with his legs, 18 rushing attempts for, over 120 rushing yards, to maybe kind of soften and open up things for Derrick Henry in a future matchup. And to show that Lamar Jackson's still a absolute dangerous threat with the ball in his hands that you have to deal with, which will open up stuff downfield in the passing department as well. With John Harbaugh talking about how the game plan can differ from week to week, right? And, I still want Derrick Henry to be a solid foundation, and the running game in general, the running back designed run game to be a solid foundation that the offense can fall back on, and that, has to keep defenses honest. And, maybe John Harbaugh says, hey, we don't plan on giving 30 carries. That's not really what we brought Henry in here for. But, it'll be him and the other guys making plays. It'll be different week to week. Offer, Derrick Henry to have a rematch in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs and have 33 carries for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hey, I would not complain about that at all. And number 4, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Drew Bledsoe, talks about Lamar Jackson's performance on the Up and Adams show. Check out what he had to say.
Done. He's got this record now that's building against KC. What do you make of that, with how that sequence, that craziness played out?
Yeah, he did everything that he could. It's like, it's it's the burden that you have playing quarterback. Sometimes you do everything you can, you do everything right, and it just doesn't go your way. But that record goes with you. It doesn't go with any other player on the team. He obviously missed the one throw early, but then just throws a dime to Likely in the back of the end zone for what looks like potentially the game tying or game winning. It looked like Harbaugh was going to go for 2, which was interesting. So he does a lot right, and he's truly one of the great players in the league. But when you're a quarterback, that record follows you, whether it's all on you or not.
And again, if you guys didn't get a chance to hear our post-game recap, the fact that we had all those penalties, the missed opportunities, there was a couple of missed throws by Lamar Jackson where he could have connected on and won the game. There was one downfield to Bateman that was open. Of course, he didn't see Zay for that one touchdown before the amazing throw to Isaiah Likely where the toe came out. There was also a ton of illegal formation penalties, which is a whole other topic in and of itself. John Harbaugh talked about how the data literally with the trackers in the pads showed where he lined up in comparison to where the Chiefs lined up with actual real data, and that, it was completely called unfair, and that Ronnie Stanley was actually just as close, if not closer, to what the Chiefs were doing in their alignment. However, they don't get called for it. The Ravens did. Tons of analysts all over the country, big-time sports people with millions of followings and everything like that have talked about how it was not a fair game, called evenly. There was definitely some home cooking going on there with the Chiefs. And I don't ever like to complain about the refs, but I'm just saying, with all the calls, with the missed opportunities that the Ravens could have fixed themselves, with some of the poor offensive line play, a missed field goal, the strip sack, all of that stuff, the Baltimore Ravens were still, a pinky toenail away from, beating the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Kansas City. So I have a lot of optimism for this team that they're going to improve. John Harbaugh talked about how they want to improve their floor, and I think they're going to do just that. At number 5, I want to highlight a few performances from that Chiefs game. Let's talk about the offensive line first. Tyler Linderbaum has been a rock, not only in that game versus the Chiefs, but he's been a rock for the last 2 years. He was a Pro Bowler for a reason. And Tyler Linderbaum, 51 pass blocking snaps, only 1 pressure allowed with a 99.0 pass block efficiency. He's a rock and an anchor on this offensive line. Ronnie Stanley also performed fairly well and held up his part of the bargain. The left side of the line in general was good. However, Daniel Falele and the right side of the offensive line had some struggles at times. Falele allowed a team-high 6 pressures on 52 pass blocking snaps, so 11.5% pressure rate, not very good. If it's me, I'm starting Ben Cleveland in the next game, and if they still, even if they don't want to start Ben Cleveland, at least have him go out there and rotate with Falele so you can literally see him on tape compared to Falele, and you can let them rotate, see who performs better. But right now, I do think Ben Cleveland is the better option. Reminder, the Ravens are playing a very good defensive line on Sunday. The Raiders team as a whole, maybe not the best team, but their defensive line is one of their strengths and can cause issues for our offense, specifically Max Crosby, who typically lines up on the right side of the offensive line. And then the Raiders also brought in Christian Wilkins, one of the best defensive tackles in football. All right, guys, so check out this rep real quick from Daniel Falele, just to show you kind of some of the real bad, and I'm not trying to bash on Falele. I like him as a talent. I still think he can develop, but I think Ben Cleveland's a better option right now. And, this type of stuff can't really happen consistently if you want Lamar Jackson, his passing attack, to have a chance to be a really potent and effective unit. So Daniel Falele at right guard here. He's next to Linderbaum. Patrick McCarry's to his right, and you got Chris Jones, number 95, playing the 4 tech, kind of head up on Patrick McCarry. All right, so Chris Jones is going to rush inside, and you see just a simple hand swipe, and Chris Jones is in Lamar Jackson's face within like under 2 seconds. Like that's got to be like a 1.5 second win for Chris Jones. Like that's the type of stuff that's unacceptable for us to have a chance in the passing department. So again, quick hand swipe right in Lamar Jackson's face. This is the type of stuff that ruins. But, even despite that, look at Lamar Jackson, going out to his right here, one-handed while shielding off Chris Jones with his left hand, hits Justice Hill for a completion. That's Lamar Jackson doing special stuff. But that's also the type of, you don't want to see Lamar Jackson having to be Superman all the time. You want to play in structure, get the ball out on time in the, the quick passing department, the drop back passing stuff. But that's not going to have a chance if pass protection's not better. Some other positive performances. We got the rookie cornerback, Nate Wiggins. Let's talk about some positive performances. We got the rookie cornerback, Nate Wiggins, in his NFL debut. Only played about 30% of snaps, but did have a 76.9 coverage grade, 17 defensive snaps, and only 1 receiving yard allowed. Looked good in his debut, and I expect him to get an uptick in snaps as well. Isaiah Likely was the highest graded Raven, over a 91 PFF grade, 111 yards, 9 receptions, a touchdown, almost 2. Him and Mark Andrews are going to be a special duo. Isaiah Likely is a threat. He put that out on tape week 1 for defenses to deal with. The more threats that show you stuff on tape, the more you have to draw attention, and other guys can eat, like a Bateman, who made a couple of plays, like a Zay Flowers, like Derrick Henry. All these guys are going to complement each other, and I'm really excited about the offense as a whole. And if you guys enjoyed today's content, make sure to smash the like button. It really does help out the channel. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.